YNW Bortlen just broke down in court and spilled everything about how Melly pulled that trigger.
I will accept your no contest pleas as to each. I'm going to find a factual basis to support each based upon my review of each electronic probable cause affidavit as well as your stipulation in court here today.
This man went from writing for his brother to telling prosecutors exactly where Melly was sitting when those shots went off the footage he handed, or might just seal Melly's fate. Bortlen's plea deal has the whole YNW camp shaken. September 9th, 2025, YNW Bortlen accepted a deal that's flipping the rap game upside down. He was facing 5 life sentences, but instead of holding it down, he took a deal that's got everyone calling him out. In the Broward County courtroom, Judge Martin S. Fine made it clear. Bortlen had to plead no contest to 6 charges. 2 counts of accessory after the fact to first-degree murder witness tampering conspiracy, to tamper with a witness directing, criminal gang activity, and unlawful use of a communication device. In return, prosecutors dropped the 2 first-degree murder charges, the ones that could have had him locked up for life or even facing death row.
And it's my understanding that you want to resolve both cases today. Is that correct? And that resolution is an agreement you reached with the state, the terms of which are as follows. Number 1, in the 19 case, you're going to plead no contest to both counts of accessory after the fact. In the 23 case, you're going to plead no contest to all 4 counts as charged. In exchange for that, the state is going to null process, that is, drop the 2 first-degree murder counts. All right, I'm going to adjudicate you guilty. Yes, sir.
In an attempt to seal the deal, the judge continued.
And state, is it the same terms that you discussed previously? Is there anything different?
No, Your Honor, that has changed.
So the preforms to me look like in the 19 case as to the 2 counts of accessory after the fact as well as to all 4 counts in the 23 case. These are going to be adjudications, 10 years Florida State prison followed by, that's a 6 years probation?
That's correct.
6 years probation. All counts will run concurrently, all sentences run concurrently with one another.
The real shocker here and why everyone's losing their minds is this thing called a proffer. It means Bortlen has to give a sworn statement about what really went down on October 26, 2018, the night YNW Sackchaser and YNW Juvie were killed, his. Lawyer Joseph Nascimento tried to play it cool, saying Cortland pled no contest today, so he hasn't admitted anything. But the streets know what's up. Here's where things heat up: the victim's family. Lawyer John M. Phillips went public, saying Bortlen is talking and that his proffer could seal Melly's fate when his retrial kicks off in January 2027. Phillips is already moving fast, filing to depose Bortlen within 30 days for civil suits and even raising safety concerns. And when lawyers start bringing that up, things are about to get messy. Now, what's this proffer expected to reveal? Prosecutors believe Bortlen will confirm that Melly was sitting in the rear left seat right behind the driver when those fatal shots were fired. That destroys Melly's defense. The story that he wasn't in the car and that it was some random drive-by. The forensics already told part of the story, but Bortlen's sworn statement might be the final nail in the coffin. Let's rewind for a second. The evidence that built this case was already heavy. The surveillance footage from New Era Recording Studio in Fort Lauderdale showed something that completely shattered the drive-by claim. Between 3:28 and 3:30 a.m. on October, 26th cameras captured Melly, Bortlen, Sackchaser, and Juvie leaving the studio together in Bortlen's black 2017 Jeep Compass. That video contradicted Bortlen's first hospital statement, where he claimed Melly wasn't in the vehicle during the shooting. Footage clearly shows Bortlen approaching the Jeep first, followed by the rest. The footage showed Bortlen unlocking the Jeep and getting into the driver's seat, while Melly slid into the rear left seat behind him. Sackchaser sat in the front passenger seat and Juvie took the rear. What makes this video so devastating is how calm and normal everything looked. There were no signs of tension or danger, just 4 friends leaving the studio after a session. They didn't look like men about to be ambushed by rival gang members. When prosecutors played that footage during opening statements in Melly's 2023 trial, you could literally see the defense team's faces drop. But that was only the beginning. Crime scene investigators then took the stand and described what they found when Bortlen pulled up to Memorial Regional Hospital around 5:28 a.m. The Jeep had 10 bullet holes on the passenger side, all inbound. Here's where it got serious. The bullet trajectory showed the shots came from inside the vehicle, specifically from the rear left seat, the same spot where Melly was sitting. Investigators also found a .40 caliber shell casing on the floorboard behind the driver's seat and none outside the vehicle. The blood spatter patterns told the same story. The shots were fired at close range inside the car, When they tested for gunshot residue, traces were found on Melly's clothing. The forensics made it clear this wasn't a drive-by, was an execution from within. The medical examiner's testimony confirmed it. Sack Chaser died from gunshot wounds to the chest and jaw at contact range 1 to 2 feet away. Juvie was shot in the head and arm at a similar distance. These weren't long-range shots. Whoever pulled the trigger was sitting right next to them.
So this resting angle in this seat, you have the projectile coming in, exiting through the top of the skull, and then continuing through the windshield. Christopher Thomas was already deceased when these rounds were coming into the back of the vehicle because Christopher Thomas was what we would call crumbling. He was starting to fall, if you will. On top of that, I know that he was already deceased because the back of his back, essentially, the rounds that are in his back, have no blood in them. My determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting. The shooter's at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in.
The digital evidence was just as damaging cell phone data placed Melly's phone along the exact route the Jeep took from the studio to the shooting site and finally to the hospital. There were no gaps or disconnections, meaning Melly never got out of the car during that entire trip. After the shooting, investigators found that Melly searched online for drive-by shooting news, checking to see if their fake story was holding up. Then came the Instagram messages that exposed his mindset. When someone asked about the deaths, Melly simply replied, "Shh," which prosecutors argued was a quiet confession. But the most chilling piece came from a video found on Melly's phone, recorded about a month later, where he said, "There's no regrets for the stuff that I did for that man to die. Both of them." That clip alone sent chills through the courtroom. Prosecutors also revealed how Bortlen and Melly tried to cover their tracks after the shooting. Bortlen drove around for over an hour with the two bodies still inside the Jeep, trying to build a fake timeline that made their drive-by story seem real. When he finally showed up at the hospital, witnesses said he was calm, almost emotionless, even eating snacks during the drive despite having two dead friends in the car. Detectives then searched the alleged drive-by location in Miramar and found nothing. No shell casings, no blood, no tire marks. Instead, they discovered casings on the roadside buried in grass, proving this was no ambush from outside. This was something far more sinister set up from within.
So the yellow and orange markers are there to help depict items of evidence that can't necessarily be seen as they are being covered by the shrubs.
Can you describe what we're looking at in this photo here with photo marker number 1?
Yes. The shell casing.
This completely destroyed the fake story that Bortlen and Melly had tried to build. The evidence was stacked sky high, and now with Bortlen's proffer about to drop, Melly's defense looks ready to collapse completely. The surveillance footage, forensics, and digital trail already painted a clear picture, but Bortlen's cooperation might be the final nail in the coffin. What we're witnessing could become one of the biggest betrayals in hip-hop history, a moment that's tearing YNW apart forever. Now let's talk about the bond that just shattered into a million pieces, because the relationship between Bortlen and Melly ran way deeper than most people realize. These two came up together in the streets of Gifford, Florida around 2013 to 2014, connected by shared struggle, absent fathers, single mothers, and the constant shadow of gang violence. They weren't just collaborators, they were brothers who built the YNW movement from scratch. The YNW family was supposed to be unbreakable. They even had YNW for life tattooed on their bodies and shouted YNW4L in every song. And post, Bortlen was the planner handling the driving production and studio sessions, while Melly's melodic style made them stars. By 2017, they'd signed a joint deal with Quality Control Music, and it seemed like nothing could stop them. Even after the 2018 murders, Bortlen stuck to the story, claiming it was a drive-by, wiping down the Jeep and helping to stage the timeline when both were. Arrested in 2019, they kept in touch through jail calls and letters. Melly's own family even supported Bortlen, treating him like blood despite everything. But loyalty has limits, especially when you're staring down 5 life sentences, and when the pressure hit, that unbreakable bond finally cracked. The streets are calling this the ultimate betrayal, comparing it to legendary cases where one man's cooperation destroyed brotherhoods and careers, and the timing says it all. Bortlen took the plea just one day before his trial was set to begin. The hip-hop world exploded when the news dropped. Even DJ Academics jumped online, questioning. The streets started buzzing about the sudden shift, pointing out how Bortlen had stayed silent from 2018 all the way until now before finally deciding to cooperate. The conversation quickly exploded online. One post alone pulled over 1,500 likes and hundreds of comments debating whether Bortlen made the right move or broke the street. Code Takashi 6ix99 jumped in almost instantly, trolling with his own post that read, YNW Bortlen just accepted his plea deal with prosecutors, YNW Melly is cooked, pulling in over 1,100 likes, coming from someone who's infamous for cooperating. With law enforcement that hit differently and added fuel to the fire, memes flooded social media with people joking about his name. Imagine trusting a guy named YNW Bortlen not to snitch. One viral comment read, others pointed out the play on Bortlen sounding like bottled slang for folding under pressure. Meanwhile, Reddit threads lit up with debates, some calling him a traitor, others saying he made the smart move. The comparisons to Gunna's YSL Ryko plea were everywhere, with users dubbing it the Gunna 2-0 situation. But Bortlen's legal team is pushing back against the snitch label hard. His attorney Fred Haddad told XXL, I don't represent snitches. Cortland Henry is not a snitch, and he will not be cooperating or testifying in Melly's trial. Another attorney, Joseph Nascimento, echoed that sentiment, saying, it's important to note that Cortland pled no contest. He hasn't admitted anything. There's no requirement or expectation he testify against Melly. Insists the proffer session was just a brief clarification about his role, not full cooperation, and that it can't be used against him. Their stance is clear. This was a calculated move to reduce his risk, not a betrayal. Still, the streets aren't convinced. While a few are defending him, most can't shake the image. The visual of Bortlen smiling and laughing during his fingerprinting captured in viral courtroom footage only made things worse. Then came another clip supposedly showing Melly breaking down after hearing about the plea deal that spread online with over 4,000 views, real or not. It perfectly showed how the hip-hop world feels about loyalty falling apart. Now let's get into what Melly is really up against, because his legal situation just went from bad to completely disastrous. Jamal Demons, born in 1999 in Gifford, Florida, had the kind of come-up that looked like a dream from poverty to rap fame. But October 26, 2018 changed. Everything his arrest was just as wild as his music. On February 13, 2019, he turned himself in to the Miramar Police Department, but not before going live on Instagram, hiding inside a suitcase and whispering about how he was about to surrender. The clip later became a key piece of evidence showing what prosecutors called consciousness of guilt. Melly's trial became a full-blown media event. It ran from June 12th to July 22nd, 2023 in Broward County Circuit Court, streamed live by Law and Crime Network to millions of viewers who watched every second. The prosecution brought in 27 witnesses over 3 weeks and introduced more than 300 pieces of evidence, confident they had locked down the case. They even went for the death penalty, saying the murders were planned and connected to gang activity, a betrayal from inside YNW itself. But the defense hit back hard, calling just one witness, a childhood friend who told the court Melly cried when he found out about the deaths. They leaned on the fact that there was no direct proof, no murder weapon, no DNA on a gun, and no eyewitnesses to the actual shooting.
We think that it was deliberate, it is highly prejudicial, this jury has been tainted, and we move for a mistrial. Oh, there's one more thing. If you don't mind, I'll have Mr. Alistine articulate what that might be.
This is your motion for Mr. Alistine?
Yes, it's our motion for mistrial. When their entire questioning for the last 30, 40 minutes had been so improper, and the court told them not to do it, and they proceeded and proceeded and proceeded. We're moving for a mistrial.
And just for the record, Your Honor.
After more than 14 hours of deliberation spread over 3 days, the jury couldn't agree. They were split 9-3 in favor of manslaughter, a lesser charge than the first-degree murder prosecutors were pushing for. Even after the judge urged them to reach a unanimous decision, they remained deadlocked. On July 22, 2023, the judge had no choice but to declare a mistrial. The retrial was originally planned for September 2025, but multiple appeals pushed it all the way to January 2027. The time that date comes around, Melly will have spent over 8 years behind bars, without a conviction, raising serious concerns about his right to a speedy trial. If convicted in the new trial, Melly faces two possible outcomes: life in prison without parole or the death penalty. Under Florida's 2023 death penalty law, only an 8-4 jury vote is needed to sentence someone to death, the lowest requirement in the country. On top of that, additional charges tied to gang activity and witness. Tampering could bring more life sentences. The factors that could push the court toward a death sentence include premeditation, gang-related motives, and the attempt to cover up the murders. But there are mitigating factors too. Melly was just 19. When it happened, he has no prior murder convictions and he still has strong family support. If the jury settles on a lesser charge like manslaughter, he could face up to 30 years instead. Now with Bortlen's proffer possibly filling in the final. Gaps in the prosecution's case, placing Melly directly at the scene and confirming his role as the shooter. The retrial is shaping up to be even more dangerous for him. The brotherhood that once looked unbreakable might now be what seals his fate, showing that in both the streets and the courtroom, loyalty has its limits when life is on the line. To really understand the weight of this betrayal, we need to talk about who Bortlen truly is, because his story runs way deeper than just being Melly's co-defendant Cortland Malik Henry, better known as YNW Bortlen, was born on January 24, 1999 in Gifford, Florida, one of the roughest neighborhoods you could grow up in. It's a small community of about 10,000 people where poverty and gang life weren't exceptions, they were the norm. Raised by a single mother with his father mostly out of the picture, Bortlen's early years were shaped by financial struggle and the constant pull of street life, constant presence of street violence. In a rare 2020 interview snippet, he talked about how his father would play New Orleans rapper BG during his sporadic visits, which planted the seeds for his love of southern hip-hop artists like Future, Lil Wayne, Boozy, Badass, Gucci Mane, and Young Scooter became his musical foundation. He dropped out of Vero Beach High School to pursue music full-time, showing zero interest in academics, when the streets and the studio were calling his name. Around 2014, at just 15 years old, he started learning the technical side of music production, teaching himself Pro Tools and Beat 'em while engineering tracks for his cousin Jay Green, and his friend, who would later become YNW Melly Bortlen's music career, took off when Melly heard his freestyles and encouraged him to take rapping seriously. By 2016, he was a core member of the YNW behind-the-scenes work and appearing on tracks. The group's blend of SoundCloud rap's melodic trap with street narrative started gaining serious traction, leading to their breakthrough moment in 2017. When YW signed with Quality Control Music in 2017, the same label that housed Migos and Lil Yachty, Bortlen's role expanded beyond just being a rapper. He handled logistics, drove the group to their shows and studio sessions, and appeared on tracks like YNW and The Mob, featuring Trippie Redd and YWB Slime. His debut solo single Came From dropped on September 19, 2018, just weeks before the murders that would change everything. The track showcased his gritty delivery over a peon, driven beat reflecting the struggles of G. Ford with lines about coming from nothing. Timing made it a haunting preview of what his career could have been without the legal troubles that followed. When Bortlen got released, on $25,000 bond in May 2020 with a GPS monitor, he used his house arrest period, productively dropping Ben Through on August 21, 2020. This First Day Out anthem blended introspection with defiance, and the track pulled in 2.9 million YouTube views. While charting on SoundCloud, it established him as a solo act in Florida's trap scene alongside rising stars like Hot Boy and Tausi. His collaboration Lovey Dovey with Tuzi Melly and YNW4L in 2021 showed his versatility, pulling in over 1 million streams with its melodic love theme. Dedication featuring Hot Boy became a street anthem about loyalty that got 2 million YouTube views, while tracks like What It Cost and Machino BAE kept his name buzzing in the Florida rap scene. But Bortlen's career has been defined by controversies that go far beyond the murder case. In October 2023, while out on bond, he got rearrested for witness tampering after allegedly trying to bribe Melly's ex-girlfriend Mariah Hamilton through Instagram DMs. Court documents revealed messages offering her a pink BMW for her silence and loyalty. Prosecutors say Bortlen once messaged Melly's ex-girlfriend saying if she had been more loyal, she'd be driving a pink BMW. That was only the start. The witness tampering case got worse when investigators discovered Bortlen had maps of jury seating from Melly's 2023 trial, a serious bond violation. He allegedly used an inmate named Terrence Mathisi as a go-between for these schemes, which led to even more charges, including conspiracy to tamper gang activity and illegal device use. And his bond violations didn't start there. Back in April 2021, he left the county without permission and kept posting music promotions on social media, acting, carefree while facing possible life sentences. The victims' families, represented by attorney John Phillips, called his actions disrespectful, saying his posts mocked their pain. Prosecutors also linked YNW to the G-Shine Bloods, claiming the murders came from internal beef over money jealousy and rank within the crew. When Bortlen took a plea for directing criminal gang activity, it only strengthened that link, painting him as far more than just a driver. Then came the moment that shook the internet. During his September 9, 2025 plea hearing, Bortlen was caught on camera smiling while being fingerprinted. The judge said, "I will adjudicate you guilty and sentence you to 10 years in Florida State Prison." The clip went viral. Instantly, critics said he was smirking at betrayal, while supporters argued it was relief after dodging life sentences. Either way, the optics were bad, especially with Melly still facing a possible death penalty. Here's where it gets interesting. Bortlen never had any big rap beefs. From 2014 to 2017, his social media only showed vague street talk about sneak dissing, but nothing aimed at specific artists. Recently, 6699 mocked Bortlen's plea deal online, calling Melly cooked. But since Bortlen's behind bars, he couldn't respond. These were more like one-sided jabs than real feuds. The closest thing to real tension came from inside YNW. During Melly's 2023 trial, his defense team subtly pushed the idea that Bortlen, real mastermind, the driver who staged the entire scene. YNW's wider beefs with crews like Quando Rondo's Never Broke Again stemmed from blood crip rivalries in Florida, not personal drama with Bortlen himself. Despite all the chaos, Bortlen always stayed low-key, focused on music and loyalty to his team. But the real irony? His biggest conflict isn't with rivals. It's with his own brother Melly. The 2025 plea deal turned their story into the ultimate hip-hop betrayal narrative, with fans comparing it to Gunna's YSL plea. Now the snitch label hangs over him, threatening to end his career before it can restart. He still got millions of streams from singles, but no full album. Constant legal trouble kept him from reaching his peak. His melodic trap sound fit Florida's wave perfectly, but that cooperation stigma could make him untouchable in the rap world. With 4 years left on his sentence and 6 more on probation, Bortlen's career sits on a knife's edge. The plea deal may have saved his life, but it might have cost him his legacy. The boy from Gifford who rose through loyalty and brotherhood now faces a future where those same values could block his redemption in hip-hop. That's all for today, fam. If you enjoyed the video and want more real stories like this, hit that card on your screen and subscribe for more.